new discoveries here at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre happened during a recent restoration around the tomb of Jesus.
For nearly 2,000 years, one detail in the Bible has divided historians. The Gospel of John describes a garden beside the tomb of Jesus Christ. Most scholars believed it was symbolic, a literary image, a spiritual metaphor. But beneath the ancient streets of Jerusalem, archaeologists uncovered something no one expected to find. Hidden beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the site long believed to contain the tomb of Jesus, they uncovered something buried beneath the church that should not have been there. What they uncovered may be one of the strongest physical connections ever found to the final hours of Jesus' life. But the deeper they dug, the stranger the discovery became.
What's happened is they pulled the top of the marble slab back.
The discovery under the church. The discovery began during restoration work in 2022 beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, one of Christianity's holiest and most visited sites. For centuries, believers traveled from around the world to stand inside this church, convinced it marked the place where Jesus was crucified, buried, and resurrected. But beneath the stone floors of the ancient structure, hidden under layers of history, archaeologists uncovered something no one expected to find. The excavation team, led by Professor Francesca Stassola from Sapienza University of Rome, was originally focused on preserving the church's aging foundation. At first, the work appeared routine: ancient stone, dust, fragments of old construction. But then the excavation reached deeper, untouched layers beneath the church, and everything changed. Buried beneath the structure were preserved layers of ancient soil unlike anything researchers expected to find beneath a massive stone church in the center of Jerusalem. Inside that soil were olive pits, grape seeds, pollen, and traces of plant life preserved for nearly 2,000 years. The deeper archaeologists examined the site, the clearer the picture became. This was not random vegetation. The planting areas were organized carefully and bordered with stone, proving the land had once been intentionally cultivated. Someone had planned this place. Someone had maintained it. This was not wilderness hidden beneath the church. It was a real garden. And that discovery raised an immediate question. Why would a cultivated garden exist beneath one of Christianity's holiest sites? At first, archaeologists believed they may have uncovered nothing more than an ancient agricultural area connected to the outskirts of Old Jerusalem. But then they noticed something unusual. The garden was not isolated. It existed beside burial structures. And suddenly, the excavation began to resemble something far more significant, because buried beneath the garden itself were rock-cut tombs carved directly into solid stone. Ancient burial chambers hidden beneath Jerusalem for centuries. The deeper researchers investigated, the more difficult the discovery became to explain away as coincidence. Because nearly 2,000 years earlier, the Gospel of John described something remarkably similar. Now, in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden. For generations, many historians and scholars believed that line was symbolic, a spiritual metaphor, a literary image, a theological reference to paradise or renewal. But beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, archaeology appeared to be revealing something different. The garden described in the Gospel may have been real all along. And this was only the beginning, because the location of the tombs created an even bigger mystery. The tombs and the Gospel account. The tombs uncovered beneath the garden were not simple graves. They were carefully carved, rock-hewn tombs consistent with elite Jewish burial practices from the 1st century. And that detail immediately caught the attention of historians, because, according to the Gospel accounts, Jesus was buried in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea, a wealthy follower who offered his own newly prepared tomb after the crucifixion. The tombs discovered beneath the church closely matched that description. These were not rough caves or ordinary burial sites. They were carefully constructed chambers carved directly into solid rock. Mark 15:46 specifically states that Jesus was laid in a tomb cut out of the rock. And beneath Jerusalem, archaeologists uncovered tombs matching that exact detail. Not natural caves, not common graves, but burial chambers associated with wealthy individuals of the period. And this is where the excavation stopped looking like coincidence, because the details were no longer vaguely similar to the Gospel account. They were beginning to match it point for point. Then researchers made another astonishing realization. The location itself aligned perfectly with the geography described in the Bible. The Gospels repeatedly state that Jesus was crucified and buried outside Jerusalem's city walls. That detail was historically important. Under Jewish law, executions and burials were carried out beyond the city in order to preserve the sacredness of Jerusalem itself. And according to archaeological evidence, the garden and tombs beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre existed outside the ancient walls of 1st century Jerusalem, exactly where such a burial site should have been. But the discoveries did not stop there. Researchers also realized the layout of the site matched the urgency described in the gospel accounts surrounding Jesus' burial. According to the Bible, Jesus was buried quickly before the approaching Sabbath. Time was running out. A burial location close to the city would have been essential, and the garden discovered beneath the church was positioned perfectly for such an urgent burial. Every layer of excavation seemed to reinforce details written nearly 2,000 years ago. The garden, the tombs, the location outside the walls, the proximity to Jerusalem, the rock-cut burial chambers. Each discovery strengthened the connection between the archaeological site and the gospel narrative. But perhaps the most incredible part of the story was still hidden beneath centuries of history, because archaeologists eventually realized why this place had survived at all. The discovery that changes everything. In 135 AD, Roman Emperor Hadrian attempted to erase Christian memory from Jerusalem forever. At the time, Christianity was growing rapidly across the Roman world, and Hadrian sought to suppress its influence inside the Holy City. To do that, he ordered a Roman temple built over the site associated with Jesus' crucifixion and burial. The goal was simple: bury the location, destroy its significance, erase it from history completely. And for centuries, many believed the original site had been lost forever beneath Roman construction and the passage of time. But history took an unexpected turn, because Hadrian's attempt to erase the site may have preserved it instead. The massive Roman construction sealed the garden and tombs beneath layers of debris, stone, and earth, protecting them from centuries of destruction, weather, and human activity. The very empire that tried to eliminate Christian memory may have unintentionally safeguarded one of Christianity's most sacred locations for nearly 2,000 years. And that is what makes this discovery so extraordinary. For centuries, the garden beside Jesus' tomb was treated by many historians as symbolism, a metaphor, a literary creation, a theological image rather than a real place. But beneath Jerusalem, archaeology uncovered physical evidence that changes that conversation completely. The garden was real. Not only that, it existed exactly where the Gospel of John said it would be. Outside the ancient city walls, beside rock-cut tombs, buried beneath the earth for centuries. The olive trees were real. The planting beds were real, the tombs were real, and all of it remained hidden beneath one of the most sacred places on earth. For nearly 2,000 years, millions of people read a single sentence in the Gospel of John without knowing whether it described a real location. Then beneath Jerusalem, archaeologists uncovered the garden, the soil, the roots, the planting beds, the tombs, everything buried beneath history the entire time. For believers, this discovery is powerful. For historians, it is astonishing. And for skeptics, it raises a question that is becoming harder to ignore. What if the gospel writers were describing a real place all along? That is the true significance of what archaeologists found beneath Jesus' tomb. Not just ruins, not just ancient soil, but a forgotten garden hidden beneath history itself. Because sometimes the most important places in history are not lost forever. They are simply buried, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered again. And after nearly 2,000 years beneath Jerusalem, the garden described in the Gospel of John may no longer belong to faith alone. It may now belong to history,